How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. If you guys have been around on the channel, you know that from time to time I cover a book on here, and I've covered a lot of R.L. Stine books. R.L. Stine's a really great writer. You know him for things like Fear Street and Goosebumps. He's made a ton of classic books. And if you've also watched the channel for a long time, you know that I do a lot of movie hauls. I've never done a book haul before, but I randomly went into my local used bookstore, and apparently someone had given away quite the collection because all of a sudden the used bookstore had a bunch of old R.L. Stine books, including a few that were pretty rare and I was glad to get my hands on. So I figured because I picked up so many and there were some pretty cool things in here that I would go ahead and make a video showing it to you. I have 19 books in here, and all of them except for the first one cost $2. So yeah, a pretty good haul for about 40 bucks. It's some cool stuff. I won't spoil too much of what's in here, although the title probably did a little bit, but without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera and I'll show you guys what I picked up. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at my R.L. Stine haul. And I guess since Goosebumps is a series he's most famous for, let's go ahead and do Goosebumps first. Now, Goosebumps originally had as their special editions tales to give you goosebumps. That would be 10 anthology stories. After 6 tales to give you goosebumps, they would make 2 Goosebumps triple headers as kind of a replacement series. And the idea was instead of 10 super short stories, you'd get 3 short but longer stories. And this is book 1 here. It's got this really shiny holographic cover. I guess that's what you call it. Really hard to see. Flip it to the back, there is sadly a bit of wear. You go to used bookstores, you'll find books with wear, really as long as they're in a decent condition. But these are what the creatures are supposed to look like. I kind of wonder if there's a version of this book without the holographic, so you can see them a little better. But triple header, it's 1, 2, 3 times the scares, and we get it's the story of a family about to receive a visit from beyond the grave. It's a story about 2 alien beings so disgusting it will turn your stomach inside out. It's a story of a game show so deadly you'll never watch television the same way. So a little pitch for each of these stories, and if you want to see the actual names, flip it to the inside. Ghost Granny, Spin the Wheel of Horror, and Teenage Sponge Boys from Outer Space. And we get to see that there's the creatures again above the intro page. Really cool. But anyway, so 3 stories, around 50 pages, probably a little bit shorter each, but yeah, a 3-pack. So kind of rare for Goosebumps, a kind of rare find, but not like super, super rare. The next thing, though, is much rarer, and that is I actually found 4 Fear Street Seniors books. That was when I knew I was really lucky. These Fear Street Senior books were really, really hard to find. These are all first printings, and I honestly think they only had 1 printing because they are so rare. I don't think they really reprinted them too often. Here's hoping Simon Pulse does, though. Like, that would be really nice. Like, seriously, just do 3 or 4 books and do a bunch of omnibuses and get it out there. Because in more than collecting, I really just want to read them. And so I have 4, and they only made 12 of these. So I'm a third of the way through collecting this very hard-to-find series just in one go. But there's 12 because it's seniors. It's senior year, so a book a month lasting a whole year, and the whole idea is who will survive. So it's a senior class that gets picked off, and actually if we open up each book, Shady Side High yearbook, and flip it to the next page, and we get actual yearbook pages, all these characters that are going to be in the series, and I won't show you the next couple books because that would be spoilers. But whenever a character dies, there's a rest in peace stamp that goes over their profile. And as you read the series, more and more of these characters are going to have rest in peace stamps. So that's really interesting. These all have step back covers, and step back covers are interesting. It's not the best use of them here because it's always something piercing the cover and you see a couple of the characters, but then you open it up and it's just a yearbook page. Like, usually it's supposed to be like some twist when you open it up. There's something horrific in the second image, but here it's always just these yearbook pages. But combine that with how rare these books are and how often step back covers will crack or tear, yeah, that makes this series super hard to collect. But anyway, taking a look at the first one, this one's entitled Let's Party, and we can see here that it says a Fear Street Super Chiller. So originally they envisioned this as more of a spin-off of the Super Chillers before it became its own thing. In the first book it says Josie Maxwell has a vision of the senior class in coffins, and she's worried that something horrible will happen to her class, even though people tell her it's just a vision, it's just a dream, it's not real. The second one, we get this axe, and here's the step back, and we can see again another yearbook page, this time in purple, and we flip it to the back, and it says that this one kid's a camp counselor, but there's a weird kid that always wears a mask, and then people start disappearing. Very Friday the 13th there. And we also see it just says a Fear Street series. It doesn't say Super Chiller anymore because it's getting its own identity. The third one, episode 6, so sadly I didn't get them all in order. And yeah, episodes instead of books. The Gift, and we do the step back, and we see they're all cutting stuff for a party, so I guess the scissors are appropriate there. And yeah, the scissors are cool because you get this extra little bit down here. Flip it to the back, and it talks about how this girl has a necklace that she thinks is cursed. And then we move on to the last one I got. This is episode 8, Sweetheart, Sweet Evil. And as I mentioned with step backs getting torn, this one was torn here and here. I glued it back together and got some Prismacolor pencil so it wasn't white. Once it's torn, it's torn. I might as well try to prevent it from tearing further and make it look decent. But yeah, these step backs have a bad tendency to get damaged. But there's the inside there. And we flip it over, and it talks about how there's this guy who has 3 girls already that like him, but he gets a 4th girl, and this girl turns out that she might be secretly a ghost. So that's kind of interesting, a little bit like the new girl. I'm curious where that goes. So Seniors, episode 1, 2, 6, and 8. I still need the other 8. But yeah, I'm a third of the way through Seniors in one go. That got really lucky there. Another thing I found is I found 2 issues of Fear Street Sagas. Not as hard to find as Seniors, but still a little harder to find than the regular books. But basically, you had, when Fear Street was doing trilogies, you had the Fear Street Saga trilogy, just one saga without the S, and that was Fear Street Way Back in Time. Well, that was popular enough that Fear Street Saga spun off into Fear Street Sagas and became, much like the main series, anthology following different characters, but this was all way back in time, showing that Fear Street has always been haunted. Now, the first 3 Sagas books and the original trilogy all got new recent re-releases, so here's hoping they do triple bind-ups for all of these books, but until they do, I'll be trying to collect them. But anyway, flip it to the back, and this one is about a girl whose brother disappeared, and she visits the employer, who has a bunch of creepy, terrifying wax figures. So this one is faces of terror, and we see the melting wax figures of the main girl there. What happens when wax comes to life? And then after that, we get the Hand of Power, and we get her reaching out into the portrait, and on the back it talks about how she has the power to see into the past, and her fiancé brings her to this mansion to try to find some magical source of power hidden inside the mansion's walls. But of course, she gets more than she bargained for. So that is 13 and 16. I don't know how long this series lasted, but not too much longer after that. After this, we get a whole bunch of books in the Point Horror series. Now, this first one here, you don't quite get the impression as much. These are all later printings. They're not first printings. Again, as long as they have the main cover and they're in decent shape and totally readable, I don't really care super much about first printings. But why these are called Point Horror, well, these just say Scholastic on the side, but they all had the Point logo. This was one of the Scholastic imprints, I believe, and they would all originally have this P up here. This isn't part of the haul. This is The Girlfriend, which is like the most common R.L. Stine Point Horror book. But anyway, even though these don't say point, it's the same line. And look how similar this is. The Girlfriend and the Boyfriend. I don't think they're officially related, but I always thought that they kind of went together, you know? But anyway, this is The Boyfriend. Flip it to the back. Sometimes love is murder. And it talks about how there's this girl, and she didn't really care about this guy, Dex. She was just using him. Well, then he died, and the girl doesn't really care, but Dex comes back. His ghost wants one more date. And we get another flower and a message. I will love you forever. Her boyfriend's back from the grave. So that's The Boyfriend. And then we get this one, Blind Date. Was Blind Date the first one of these books? I'm not 100% sure. The first one Stine did. And it talks about how Carrie had a bad year, but now his luck is going to change. He's on a blind date with the girl of his dreams, or maybe his nightmares. This cover's a little bit simple, but the glowing green doorbell, that's pretty cool. It reminds you of do you ever see the poster for House, the floating skeleton hand that pushed the doorbell? A little bit of that. Another hand cover next, that's The Hitchhiker, and this one talks about how there are these two girls who give a mysterious hitchhiker a ride, but it turns out he might not be 100% on the level. So that's cool, and you can see these are all anthology. They all do their own thing. This next one, a really fun portrait cover, Twisted. She's your sister. Trust her. And we get the downward looking up lighting. And it talks about how there's this girl, she's going to do a pledge. And they say that the pledge, that might be a problem because this year the initiation is going to be murder. So, sorority sisters getting in trouble there. The next one, I'm super glad that I found this because A, it's a really cool cover, but B, I want to read this when it's cold and snowy. So hopefully I'll get to this in the winter. Flip it to the back. And it talks about how there's this girl, and she's kind of like Snow White, or Cinderella. I get my Disney princesses mixed up. But she's alone, her caregiver doesn't like her, and one day she meets a Prince Charming character kind of coming into her restaurant. Heather feels so safe, so loved, so warm. Actually, doesn't really describe what the horror is going to be in this book, but Snowman, not looking too good there. I wonder how the snowman's going to come into things. And next, these two books I was super excited to get, especially with Halloween coming up in a few months. I want to do a lot of R.L. Stine Halloween books, like the Haunted Mask. There are 2 of those in the original series. Then there's the Jack-o'-lantern book. And I really wanted to find these, and I'm so glad I found them before Halloween, especially because this is one of the point horrors that had a sequel. There's 2 Halloween Night books, and I know there's like The Babysitter was another point horror one, and that one got 4 books. But Halloween Night, it talks about how Brenda hates her cousin Haley, and she steals everyone's boyfriends. That's why no one likes her, and they're going to pull a prank on her. But it's just a prank, right? But of course, horror loves pranks gone wrong. Really like the pumpkin getting stabbed all the way through the head, and the knife's so big it comes out here. That's really cool. And I won't read the plot of the other one because I don't want to spoil anything. But this one we have skeleton costumes, and they're all embossed and stuff. That's really fun. And we can see I kind of sorted them because now the name is printed differently on the spines here. It got a lot bigger. They put the RL in tiny and made Stine really big. After that, I love this cover. This is such a goofy cover. I saw you that night, and I know what you did. Kind of reminds me of that Toto song. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. But anyway, it's a summer book, Sand, Surf, Sun. And it talks about how on a dare, this girl snuck into someone's house but saw something she shouldn't have. And boy, this skeleton. Did you ever see the Ghost of Fear Street TV pilot that didn't get picked up? That had a dancing skeleton in it. That was pretty wacky. Anyway, we get Call Waiting, and it's kind of like the boyfriend and girlfriend with the note and then the one big object in the foreground. And it talks about how this girl has a stalker who's going to call her, and he has like all these fantasies and stuff with her and won't leave her alone. Another R.L. Stine phone horror. In the Fear Street series, he had the wrong number ones. Anyway, after that, we get The Dead Girlfriend, and this is a really fun cover where she's half normal, half skeleton, in her gown with all this lighting around her hair. And flip it to the back, and it talks about how there's this guy, and this girl starts dating him, but the girl doesn't know that his last girlfriend's dead and is going to come back from beyond the grave. So that's cool. So much dating and drama in R.L. Stine books made for older teenagers. But anyway, we got 2 more, and these 2 are from Archway Paperbacks. And that would be the company that worked on a lot of Fear Street. But these are, again, 2 standalone R.L. Stine books. We get Curtains, which actually was the name of a slasher movie. And R.L. Stine also did Secret Admirer in the Fear Street books, which is another play one, in Phantom of the Auditorium. Play books are always fun. But it talks about how this girl was really giving it her all during this audition, and apparently she said something she shouldn't have when she got too far into character, and it has something to do with some sort of crime, and this all takes place at a summer theater camp. So that's pretty interesting. It looks a little shorter than the point horror books. And then after that, and this is actually the last one we have here, a really intense, bright red and orange cover here. Broken Date. Does her boyfriend really want to kill her? And I love how the class ring gets reused on the back as this little gargoyle going over the front. And it talks about how these 2 have been together for forever, since junior high. They've dated so long and always assumed that they would eventually get married, but one day Tom starts acting strange and he misses a date, hence Broken Date, and then starts to act all creepy like a stalker or something. So yeah, this perfect guy all of a sudden is going nuts. And we flip it onto the inside here, and we see an ad for a bunch of the Fear Street stuff, including all the trilogies. Like I said, this was the company that published Fear Street, and we get the author of Fear Street. So yeah, cool to see more of these R.L. Stine standalone books. But yeah, one special Goosebumps, the Fear Street Seniors, 2 of Sagas, a whole bunch of point horror, and then 2 other random standalones. I really wish I had more time to read. Someday, it's gonna be nice. I'm gonna have the whole house quiet, and I'll just blow through these things. I really can't wait. So many here that I really want to read. This one should be easy to knock out sometime soon because it's shorts. Halloween's I gotta get to around Halloween, and the Snowman I gotta get to around winter time. But anyway, if you guys know which one of these is like the best, definitely interested in taking recommendations. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my R.L. Stine playlist, where you can find reviews for Goosebumps, Fear Street, and even like, say, that Zombie Town one that he did. Is that the name? Yeah, I think it was Zombie Town. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.